when action becomes yoga.
If wisdom is what directs the essential conduct of life, then why do you insist upon me to participate in this terrible action? Is the question that was posed by Arjuna, for which an answer from a different angle is coming from the blessed Sri Krishna. The very content of our existence implies there is an activity, and every activity has to be based on the understanding that flowers from within. At no point of time can you be bereft of an activity. So you must act because you are intrinsically interwoven and interconnected with the environment, with the universal principles which brought you here. As such, every activity that you engage in must bring a position where it will uplift in and around you. You have to act because at no point of time can you be without any action. Even if you do not move your limbs, even though you do not make any motion at all, still there will be a psychophysical activity, there will be a mental activity which is much more powerful. The presumption that the physical action alone is action is incorrect. Every action is not done because we think and act. Every action is present there because of the presence of the Devata, or the agency that operates in the activity that is performed by the individual in the context of anything. Just now, when I came in, I asked for a hot drink, and Swami Vidyananji brought the drink which I enjoyed. Now, in that enjoyment, it is not a personal, individual action that took place. It is the hunger of the finitude of my personality, wanting to merge with the infinite. Every simple thing that we ask in life, we are eventually asking for the ultimate. The actions that we perform have to be rooted in the understanding of the knowledge. Then karma becomes karma yoga. Karma yoga cannot be easily performed by any individual. Then why did Bhagavan Sri Krishna emphasize that? To perform a selfless activity is impossible for an individual for the simple reason that nobody will do any activity without having that capacity to receive something thereafter. Why should I even move my finger if I am not going to be benefited by that activity that I am going to perform? Is maybe the question that everyone has. Why should I even smile at anybody if I am not even going to get a smile back? If I am not going to get any response, why should I involve myself in any type of movement or action or thought or expression if it is not going to bring me any blessedness, any happiness, any type of positivity? Why should I engage myself in an activity is the question. Every action is presenting itself through the agency of the action that is actually taking place. Even though we are not aware of the fact that there is a superintending principle in every little thought, every little speech, every little utterance, every little work that we do, there is a greater principle that is presiding over the activity, and as such, my activity has to be in a state of prayerfulness which makes me perform the yoga. There are several yogas mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, And all these different yogas appear to be different compartments of a train, as if they are connected yet not connected. But all these yogas are nothing but one single yoga, which is known as the Brahma Yoga, which the Bhagavad Gita speaks about later on. All different names are given in order to make the mind focus on it, because we are not a single personality. We are multiple personalities. We have a psychophysical entity, we have an emotional entity, we have a spiritual entity, we have a rational entity, we have an active entity. We have so many byproducts of the temperaments that speak a language of their own. Everything has to be satisfied by the action that you perform. That means Bhagavan Sri Krishna wants us to perform the total action, no partial participation in any activity. A haphazard activity is an action but not yoga. This is the emphasis of the third chapter. Anything that we do has to be a total activity. I do not give my mind here. I do not give my heart there. I do not give my feeling there. But because I am supposed to be doing that, I do it. That is wrong. It is not doing a job. It is not attending to a work. It is performing a sacrifice. Karma yajna is the word that he uses. Karma yajna, the sacrifice has to be done. Why should I sacrifice something for somebody? Because everything has been sacrificed for the survival of my own personality. As such, I also owe a duty. When creation took place, it did not send you just to enjoy, but also to perform the duties. Because in the discharge of the duties, you are fulfilling the cosmic purpose for which you came here. Your activity has to be based on this particular understanding, and your total activity has to be summoned, even in the tiniest action that you do. Perfection does not mean that you do something extraordinarily well. Perfection implies that you do ordinary things extraordinarily well. If you have to do something extraordinarily well, even a small simple act, it implies that you are focused in the now, where all attention and all resources that you have from the different temperaments of your personality are focused in one single activity with full force. That is excellence in action. It is only such a person who is able to focus totally. Just as if you bring a mirror and place it under the sun's rays and focus it in a particular area, you get the full force or the full intent of the sun's power. Even though the sun is available everywhere, you can focus it in one place. In the same way, every little activity that you do, if you are focused through your mind, if your heart is there, if your feeling is attached to what you do, you will not be asking for any result thereafter. That is what is known as Karma Yoga. Who can do that? A person who has transcended the limitations of the individual nature, who has lost his individuality, who has risen above to become a perfect yogi, who has come to the status of an understanding whereby he sees nothing about the past or the future, but is totally present in the now. That action is superbly performed, and you will be wondering later on, how could I do this? Because I wasn't there when the action was performed. Many of us have those feelings in some of our activities that we do throughout our lives. Some occasions make us feel, how did I do that? I could never ever imagine because you were totally focused. You were not there. The principle, the Devata was there. The agency was there. The divine consciousness played its role through you, by using you as an instrument whereby you forgot everything about yourself. When you forgot yourself, you can perform the most wondrous activity. With that understanding, if you are able to bring in every tiny little action that you do, then it becomes yoga. Otherwise, it will merit a reaction for which you will have to come over and over again and enjoy. According to the merits that you do, every action has a reaction. If that reaction has to come in the way that you demand, it will not be so, because there is a divine grace, there is an environmental temperament, there is a need of the universal purpose. There is a capability of the individual capacity to perform that particular activity, and thereafter all of these have to sanction your activity. Then it becomes selfless activity. Selfless is not losing yourself. You are being aware of every shade of your temperament. Then only that action becomes a total action. Supposing if you touch any part of the body, you touch the entire body, the entire physical construction of your body. You do not say, I only touched a part of the body. Anywhere you touch the entire body. In the same way, any activity that you perform will become a cosmic activity, provided you are able to bring about an integration between the different temperaments that you hold at different times. There is a maturing that is taking place from second to second. Every person that I see, if I see that person 10 minutes afterwards, what I wanted to convey to that person, the idea also will change. The capacity for that person to receive the message or the statement that I want to tell will not be welcome to him, because there is a shift in his temperament. And also, the capacity for me to express that particular statement, which I wanted to do 10 minutes ago, has also changed, because my temperament has changed. A different maturity level has come. So as such, I cannot prefix myself about what I should say tomorrow, what I should have said a while ago, what I should be telling hereafter. What I am right now, that I can express. In that nowness, action is performed exquisitely well, and that leads to perfection. It becomes perfect yoga. It is not a segregation of different yogas, such as Bhakti Yoga. I am a devotional person, Swamiji. I don't like this rationality. You are talking a lot of intellectualism. Everything has to integrate. Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi was always considered to be a jnani, but he was the greatest bhakta. He was the most devotional person that you can think of. You see in the outpourings of the songs that he has written. A jnani with his intellectualism cannot write. It is a feeling. You cannot address somebody if you do not have a feeling towards that person, even if you hate, because in everything you are present in the other. If my enemy dies, a part of me also dies with the enemy. If a new friendship comes, a new birth of energy goes into my body, because the connectivity is in both sides. It is not an isolated activity. It is a total cosmic activity, projecting itself in different dimensions, and I am absorbed into that current. Why does a part of me also die if an enemy dies? Because I have nobody to fight. I have nobody to confront with. I do not have an enemy with whom I can show my challenges. A part of me is dead when the enemy is dead. George Bush was very miserable after he killed Saddam Hussein, because with whom can he fight? As long as there is somebody to confront, you will think, oh, I have to do a lot of work. Everything is interconnected. Be he an enemy or a friend, both ways, either positive or negative, you are only summoning that nowness of relationship. Relationship also is a wrong word. Actually, what happens is there is an integration that is taking place. If you take it for granted that A is related to B, then there can be no harmony, because A is related to B means that it is not identical with B. When two things are not identical, there cannot be a real relationship. When two things are integrated with one another, there is harmony, there is symphony, there is beauty, there is joy, there is resplendent happiness. But as long as you position yourself at a distance, with an idea of distance, with an idea of space, with an idea of time, with an idea to reach out to that, there is separation. The meaning of yoga is to come into closeness and to dissolve into that oneness where excellent actions are performed. You have to perform the action in a way by which your understanding has to play the role in the activity that you perform outside, because the internal knowledge inspires you to perform the external activity. That becomes a yoga. That is a yoga that you need to perform. That is the action that I want you to perform, because then the results of the activity that you perform will not bind you, as you have performed in the now. Not bothered about the consequences is the answer of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Why am I not wanting to perform these activities was another question that Arjuna posed, and Bhagavan simply said, it is because of your desires. Arjuna asked, why am I unhappy? The world is a dukkhalaya, Sri Krishna said. Terrible statement. Bhagavan Sri Krishna did not hug him and say, don't cry baby, or let us cry together. He thrashed him left and right. He told him the world is a wretched place. Then why did you bring me to the wretched world? May be a question. But wretchedness has to be eliminated. We are all scavengers. We have come to clean the personality. When in spiritual sadhana, you eliminate all the impurities. You are not going to clean your pure nature. You are only extricating the impure nature of your character. Thereby, you become divine. The attitude has to change. Try to see from an angle of vision which you did not recognize thus far. When you are going to throw this flower in the bin later today or tomorrow, you do not simply throw it. You talk to the flower and say, look, you brightened my space, you brightened my atmosphere, you brought fragrance to my area. I am very grateful, but unfortunately now I am not able to relish you anymore. I send you back to the source from where you came, and I am putting you into the bin. But come hereafter in a very dignified, in a very glorified, in a very enriched manner, whereby I can receive you once more, once again, over and over again, in different dimensions, because you rechannel your personality and come. That is yoga in expression. Every little activity can be turned into a great yoga, provided the attitude I possess churns my personality to view differently. The desire is there and the world is a wretched world. Then Why do I have this desire? Because I think I am a person who is only responding to the call of the senses because the senses want to operate externally to me. They do not want to have any relationship with the soul. Now, where is the soul? Is it inside the body? The soul is having a body. The body is not having the soul. The soul is having an expression. The body is not having the soul. If you want to understand the relationship that exists in a thoughted manner, when the five senses have the different demands, you must know how to integrate that and bring it to the source, which is you. We want to do everything externally because we want to have recognition externally. Seldom do we want to have recognition within us for ourselves. It is not selfishness. When you are clean, when you are rooted in your personality, you can begin to perform a universal action. That is why Karma Yoga is an impossibility for an individual as long as the individual continues to be an individual. Until the individual transcends his limitation and becomes a universal being, Karma Yoga cannot be performed. What you are performing is karma and not yoga. How can we throw up our individuality? At no point in time, even after realization, Swami is realized, you will say. Name is lost, form is lost, everything has to be lost means still the identification of that will be there. What is that you are going to renounce? You can finally renounce nothing in this world. It is the idea to understand that you belong to everything and you do not discard anything. Everything in every position has to be appreciated as the expression of the Almighty. That is why in meditation they say, use anything and meditate. Actually, it is concentration. Anything can lead you to the divine because everything is a manifestation of the divine. That is why when gurus give you mantras, they say Om Namo Narayana or Om Namah Shivaya or Om Jesus. Om is a name of the Lord Almighty. And the manifestation that I want to see of the Lord may be any form. The manifestation you like, you take in and you adore that. Guru gives you mantra in a particular way. He recognizes the capability of how you can handle this particular maturity, and according to that, the instruction is given. So you know, Swamiji, it is monotonous. Can't I put on the spreadsheet 200,000 times so that the Likit Japa is over? You cannot say that. Every time you invoke the manifestation that you want, you have to focus. Then it becomes a yoga. It becomes a Japa Yoga. Otherwise, it is a Japa. You can do Ram Ram Ram, Hari Ram, Ram Ram. It has no meaning. The only benefit out of it is that you did not disturb anybody, so people allow you to do that. But it is not a yoga. Every activity has to be based in such a way whereby you can perform an excellent yoga that is required from the learning that emanates from this particular chapter, which talks about converting the minutest activity into a noble divine action. When you feel that this activity is a very noble activity, you are very close to the divine being. When you allow yourself to perform that activity with that idea of devotion, You can also feel the presence of a higher personality beyond you who is performing through you. That becomes a great adoration. In that adoration, you will not seek anything hereafter. You are with that here and now. Action, when it is performed in this manner, is not only a prayer, is not only a meditation, it is an all-comprehensive participation with a divine force that is in operation constantly. If God thinks, okay, these fellows are very busy now, I'll go and see them later in a few weeks, I'll go for a rest, you will cease to be. Tsunami will happen. Because of the presence of divinity, we are alive. Because of the presence of the divinity, we are able to think and act. Because of the presence of the divinity, we are able to eat and digest. Because of the presence of the Absolute in what we are, in whatever condition we are, in whatever thought process we are here. If that says how long to work, let me rest for a second, we cease to be. Everything is interwoven and interconnected and involved with the Absolute at all times. Feel that. As I said yesterday, writing rappers, it was boring for me when I thought, how you have to go on writing the rappers. But after some time you analyze, you are not just writing some addresses. As Swamiji taught me, when you look at it from that angle, you are also participating in a prayer. You are not just writing a rapper. You can feel the birth of a new current flowing through you, a new energy level coming through you. You come to the higher regions of yogic or elevated sadhana level. You graduate yourself. You do not eliminate what you were before. You transcend that. There is no elimination that takes place. You embrace everything and go beyond. You do not discard. When you went to the kindergarten, the teacher taught you only 26 letters of the English language. And when you get a PhD after writing a thesis, did you invent a 27th letter? They are the same 26 letters, but now you knew how to use them in different permutations and combinations, and you wrote according to the maturity level that you had at that particular time when you presented the thesis. With what you are, how you can mature yourself, how you can flower yourself, how you can present yourself, you can uplift yourself, that becomes your spiritual practice. In that activity, you cease to be what you are, what you recognize thus far. That is a recognition given by society. You discard all these limitations because when you dissolve, you sweeten the atmosphere. During the period of King Bhoja, there was a conference going on, and one of the learned Pandits wanted to enter into his court, but he came late. He was stopped by the sentries and told he could not go in because the court is full. The learned Pandit said, okay, you go and tell His Majesty the King that I am so and so who has come to see him and wants an audience with him. The sentries went and told the king, so and so with all knowledge has come, but we told him that the court is in session. He wanted to have an audience with you, Your Majesty. The king did not say anything. He told the sentry to bring a cup full of milk and to hand it over to him who is standing outside. The king did not give any other instructions to the sentries. who reported the matter of the arrival of this person who was standing outside the court. The sentry took the cupful of milk and gave it to the Pandit. In India, the sadhus and swamis all carry a handbag, not the fashionable handbag, but the jhola. It will have A to Z in that. Everything you will find in small quantities. He very carefully put his hand inside that, took a few crystals of sugar and carefully put them into the cupful of milk and told the sentries to go and give it back to the king. The king asked what happened. Just like your majesty said nothing, he also said nothing. He put his hand very carefully into the shoulder bag and took out a few crystals of sugar and put them into the cupful of milk and sent it back to your majesty. The king said, "That is a person I want in my court. Send him in." The people who were sitting in the court wanted to know what is the meaning of this cupful of milk going out and a handful of sugar coming back. He explained, "I wanted to tell him that I knew that he is a very learned scholar, but the court is full." But he said, "Even though the court is full, I will dissolve my personality like the sugar, and in that dissolution I will sweeten the atmosphere. I will not interfere with anybody. I will not ask for name and fame. And when I dissolve, when I sweeten the atmosphere, I can enter anywhere." It is only when you assert yourself that you will not be allowed to go in. When you do not assert, you are already there. To what extent am I able to dissolve my personality? How do I get that? How do I reach that? How do I perform that? That is a subsequent question that is posed by Arjuna, and Sri Krishna says, you can practice it provided you apply your mind to practice the Purusharthas. The Purusharthas are Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, the four intrinsic values. It is not an overlapping of a value over something else. It is not discarding a value. It is integrating the different levels of values. Dharma is an ethical value, and you cannot talk ethics when there is an emotion, when there is a problem. When there is a feeling of sadness, you cannot talk pure ethics. You cannot talk about the infinite all the time. You cannot talk about the finitude all the time. You cannot talk about materialism all the time. You cannot talk about the desires all the time. Everything has its place at a given time, and every value has to be given its due consideration. When you sit for meditation, you might have noticed your back will say, "I can't sit straight," or your thighs will say, "I can't sit like him in the locked position," or the spine will say, "I will not sit erect," or the eyes will say, "Why should I always be closed? If you switch off the light, I can be open and see." Everything will demand its attention because you are telling all these people, "I am not there with you. I am going somewhere else." All of them will say, "Why are you leaving me?" Every value will demand its attention in spite of what you are or what you do not want to do. Every attention, when it is demanded, you cannot discard. You cannot discard any value and say, "No, no, no." I am going for a greater value. Every value is significant. You must adapt to each and every value when you practice dharma, when you practice artha, when you practice kama, and when you seek that infinite. Moksha means you're not dead and gone. It is an infinite value. Artha, it is not only a material value. People think having a lot of money in the stock market or keeping a lot of reserves in the bank is wrong. Nobody says that. You must have money and it is very good. But if you need 200,000 rands and if you have got 2 million rands, then you should not say, I must have 200 million rands or 2 billion rands. You create a position of understanding and you say, this is it, thus far and no further. But if you go on adding, why not? That is an intrusion into the world atmosphere. The collapses in the stock market, the collapse in economic resilience across the world is because some corporate faculties want to have for themselves exclusively and not share with others. Life is about sharing. Life is about giving. Life is about extending what you can. Life is about giving an inspiration to the other. Life is not to have yourself isolated, cut off from the mainstream of the universal principle. You must be able to condition yourself to that extent and discipline your personality. Venkateshananda Swamiji always says, a disciple is one who can discipline himself. How do you discipline yourself? No external person has to come and say, hey, you have to discipline yourself. I discipline myself. A spiritual seeker has to be a dictator unto himself and a democrat unto others. You cannot say, I am fasting today, Swamiji, so I have not cooked anything, I cannot give you. If some visitor comes, you should say, I have had my food already, but you are late, I will cook for you, and immediately cook and give. And if while you are cooking you say, I am fasting and I am cooking for this wretched visitor, it is useless. The discipline is, I am very happy to give even though I don't take. If you can bring that self-discipline, then your ideas are lifted to a higher dimension. Then it becomes a holy prasad. The food becomes divine. You digest it also quickly. Prasadams you will always digest well. But a Nando's may spoil you because it is prepared with a different attitude. How do I chisel my personality? I want you to know the secrets of the Purushartha. Here, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha have to be practiced. Dharma is not something, 10 minutes Dharma, 15 minutes Artha. Dharma also changes from second to second. If the husband calls the wife and the child calls the mother at the same time, the wife cannot say, I met you before the child came, so I will run to you. Dharma demands that the mother should run to the need of the child first and not to the need of the husband, because at every second of your views, your convictions change because the maturity level demands that attention in a mature way. You have to plan yourself in a way when a certain situation demands your attention. What is that action that should have a precedence over the other? Dharma changes from second to second, from minute to minute. You cannot say, this is Dharma, I will not bow down, I will not stand up, I will not do this, I am observing silence. If somebody is killing somebody, you have to run and help You cannot say, I was observing silence because God told me to be in utter silence. I saw that activity. I was a witness. You must respond. But while you respond, you must also have the understanding, the discipline that I imposed on myself, I am breaking for the sake of a higher purpose beyond me. Because life is a sacrifice. You sacrifice at every point of time for the sake of a higher value, for a higher principle, for a higher need. When these practices are given, it has to also resonate with the different levels of your evolution. A student life has to follow ethical discipline. A householder's life has to follow a material discipline. A withdrawal life, a vanaprasthe, has to follow the desire for a higher purpose of life and integration. A vanaprasthe has to conduct himself as a withdrawal syndrome, that is neither here nor there. It is not that you have abdicated because nobody wanted you at home. When everybody wants you, you retire. That is a beautiful time. And finally I say, everything is going on well without me. Nobody is saying go, yet I think that this is the time that I will meet the Maker. At that time, you go for moksha. These 4 different levels of evolution in anybody's life, from any part of the globe, take place. A student life, a householder's life, a withdrawal life, a retirement life, and thereafter a life in the spirit. As a student, be a student. Do not engage yourself to be a trade union leader or a political leader. You may become a leader thereafter, but to be a student first is fundamentally important. Those days, Shishya has to work for the Guru for 12 to 18 years, depending upon the need of the institution or the Gurukula. They did not give long instructions. They did not have a morning yoga session, evening pranayama session. They gave a monotonous work and said, this is all you do. And in the evening, the Guru's wife will give food, and there ends the matter. The disciple was expected to do that religiously every day without fail unless he fell sick. The parents willingly went and left their children to these houses and requested the master to make the child perfect. For the perfection, they did not give long instructions. They gave one instruction, just do this. Day after day, they did it. Nowadays, we have wonderful institutions like Shivananda Ashram, where you can have morning bread, butter, honey, everything. Evening, we can have biscuits and chocolates. But there, they did not have anything of that kind. In the evening, when the food was served, they took the food and they went to sleep. The master inspected how the student was sleeping, how he was breathing, how the breath was taken in, and what is the anxiety level of the disciple when he is sleeping. He took care of that. It was a subtle transformation. It was a subtle participation. It was a very subtle relationship that was sustained in a very closed manner. And suddenly, after 12 or 16 or 18 years, as the case may be, they saw. They kept a small piece of grass under the nostril of the disciple and saw which way he is breathing when he is sleeping. If you have a regulated life, how the breathing takes place in the left nostril or the right nostril. All these are necessary because you have to discipline yourself, and when you do so, your anxiety level, your desire levels are not thrown away. They are assimilated. It is understood, and you go beyond the desire. Why can't I? I even have a world of choice. Shall I have Kellogg's chocolate or should I have Kellogg's sugar free? But then you say that you have choice. Even selecting the choice is a conditioned activity. But nobody thinks like that. The Kellogg's company spends $12 billion annually. They research on how the people should get addicted to this so that it will become the morning cereal for the whole globe. That is their way of looking at things. They create an addiction and we fall into that. Food is necessary for us, but what you eat depends on your climate, on the internal climate of the body, on the internal temperament of the person who takes the food, on the external seasons of where you are at the given point of time. We are all conditioned individuals. People say that if you eat morning Kellogg's only, you are a civilized person. Who said so? In England, if it is 12 o'clock, it is lunchtime. If you are not hungry, what are you going to do at lunchtime? You must have lunch only when you are hungry. Even if you are not hungry, just because you decide it is 12 o'clock, you go on eating. Then what is the meaning of that food? Offering food is a prayer. When you eat, there is a salutation to the divinity. When you accept anything, there is a salutation to the divinity. Even when you talk to somebody, it is a salutation to the divinity. When you take a little food, even if you go to Wimpy and have a combo, you cannot say, keep the change and come away and say, I said thanks and my work is over. You have to be thankful even before you unpack that wafer pack, and if you open that combo, you must say thank you. How do you say thank you? Nobody is there. Only the table is there. The person who cooked that food, the person who made the dough, the person who brought it from A to B to C, from the storeroom to the kitchen, everybody participated invisibly for the simple combo that you are paying 33 rands for. All those people you did not see. The farmer who tilled the land, the rain gods who came at the exact time and position to make it sprout, and the sunlight which was given in exact measurements for it to grow. All those principles you have to thank. Then you become a yogi. But do we say that all? They gave 2 slices of bread and said thank you and over. Then you dump it, and after you have dumped it, you have watched how you walk. You have disrespect and gulped it. And when you walk also, you do not walk like a human being after eating that food. You walk like an animal because all distorted energies, negative energies have gone in. All ruthless behavior has taken place. So, we behave in an animal way. We see most of us walk like animals, like a bull or a buffalo or something like that. We do not walk like human beings first of all. To have a human posture is the beginning of spiritual life. Yoga begins in the toilet. When you go to the toilet, when you pass something, you do not think I can do multiple activities. Read the New York Stock Exchange and see what is this thing, and listen to Michael Jackson's latest records and do multiple tasks. It is disrespectful to the digestion that has taken place. The food that went in last night is being sucked into my body as the bone and the marrow and the blood and the essence, and what is unwanted or unacceptable by my body element, I am sending out. So thank you. If you say that, it becomes a prayer. Yoga begins in the toilet actually, but we do not do that. When we have a shower, we have the radio, which you can hang on the shower and we listen to that. And then you sing a song of your own and you become another person. At that time, if you think about all the sacred rivers, the river Jordan or Ganga or any other river, and say, "Oh Mother, you're cleaning me, I am very grateful." It becomes a prayer and it becomes yoga. But we never do that. To have civilized behavior, we think this is how we have to be seated. This is how we have to look. This is how we have to sit. This is how. Then at the table, we will do all this dinner diplomacy, breakfast discussion, memorandum of understanding at lunch. These are intrusions into spiritual life. God did not say never to do all these things. Everything has a place. Everything has a value. Value the value of a situation in a given condition. And when you begin to respect, you automatically become a yogi. This is the call of the Bhagavad Gita. Hari Om.